Hello and welcome to another episode of Leaders of Transformation. Today's guest is going to talk to us about technology, and not just technology, but how she is actually connecting markets so that they can actually work well together. Alejandra Castellanos Bar Av is the founder and CEO of HOLALAND. HOLALAND is a holistic platform which provides premium solutions for global businesses and is closing the gap between the Latin American market, emerging markets, and the growing wave of technological solutions that are coming out of Israel. She is a native to Mexico and now lives in Israel with her family. And Ale, we're excited that you're here today.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm very excited to be here today in Leadership Transformation. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure, and you are certainly a leader of transformation. When you started to share with me some of the things that you were doing, and we were talking about even prior, like how could I introduce you? And I thought, you know what, I'm going to have you share because there's so much there. So we'll dive into that. Before we do that, I always like to thank our listeners for tuning in today, and we trust that today is going to be a great conversation. It'll be an eye-opening conversation, maybe a globalizing conversation, even for you and your business and what's possible in the area of technology and collaboration. And it was certainly eye-opening for me as Alejandra was talking about what's actually happening in Israel. So we're going to talk about current reality, where it's going, and what that means to you, the listeners. So we appreciate you being here. Afterwards, if you want to go on leadersoftransformation.com, we'll have all the links that are referenced in this interview, as well as all this other great resources that are there that are there to support you as a leader of transformation and furthering your movement, launching your movement if that's where you're at, and if you have a movement to further it. So I encourage you to go there afterwards and get all that. So Ale, talk to us a little bit more about what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it, why it's so important to you.
Yeah, I'll tell you first why, and then what I'm doing and how. Yes. Well, the why comes because I grew up in a place, like you said, in Mexico, where if you come from the American continent, you see a lot of contrasts, right? People, you have a lot of wealth and also a lot of poverty. You have a lot of natural resources, but somehow there's this gap between economic development. And you see the UN has set up goals for 2030. And those goals include ending poverty, also better health and well-being, and a better education for people. And other goals, there are 17 goals that also include global partnerships, innovation in the industry, and also women equality. So I grew up in this world that it's considered a developing world. Then I moved to Spain, which was another country that taught me a lot of the culture of Europe, and I saw completely a new way of perspective about life. And then I went back to Guatemala, which is another country in Latin America, and then I moved to Israel. So and I stayed in every country long enough to understand the culture, to be part of the native working people, business environment, and also, to actually understand what are the challenges. And everywhere I went, challenges were similar because we're all people. And now we're all connected. So when I came to Israel, I found many of the solutions in tech-wise. I saw that there was a big wave of technology that was emerging from Israel, being created and developed in Israel. Together with a lot of other foreign companies that were finding solutions here and developing solutions here for other areas of the world, like Latin America, Africa, Europe, and of course, the United States, Canada. So I found out that the Israeli companies, from day one, they are born to be global companies. They solve problems that are completely, global. They address problems in agriculture. They address problems in autonomous driving. In mobility. Now we have the solution is going through to autonomous driving, right? But the problems are mobility, are issues in the cities, also health-wise, the access, the quality, the ability of you going anywhere and with a card that you can, you know, have what now it's called digital health, that people can you will swipe your card and the doctor can see all your you know, your history, what happened, what's going on with you anywhere. And, you know, just to give you an example, Israel is one of the few countries in the world that has 100% digitized health system in the whole country.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can go anywhere here in the country, you have your social security card, and you can get treated anywhere, and all the doctors can access your medical history.
That's brilliant. What makes Israel that hub for that? Like, why, when you say that every business that is being launched there is a global business, why is that?
Well, Israel has a history of, the Jewish people, it's the first time in modern history that the Jewish people have a national home. And we've celebrated our 70th anniversary of Israeli independence now, just a month ago. And it's very, very unique the way Israel has developed, because it has developed through need. Actually, half of our territory is desert. So we have dealt with scarce resources, and people have to come up with creative solutions. And these creative solutions have come through technology, figuring out how to deal with, you know, how to make the desert bloom, and then how to bring water to the population, because we only have one source of fresh water, which is the Kinneret, which is the Sea of Galilee. And, you know, it's just a small lake, but it's a big lake. So it's very limited resources. And how do we deal with that? Because also we don't have a good, great relationship with our neighbors. So that's limited. And through a lot of harsh situations, the Israeli people have come to just tap on creativity and see challenges and difficulties as opportunities. So they've turned their challenges and their hardships into blessings. Which is very amazing. And then we can talk about the economic miracle of Israel. 60 years ago, Israel was the first exporter of oranges. And now then after, 50 years, it became the startup nation. And now we're becoming the exit nation. Last year, we had 117 exits across industries.
Amazing.
Companies. Yeah.
Well, and you also mentioned about a lot of big companies that are present there. If I remember, you said
we have around 400 multinationals from all over the world here, but they have their research and development centers here in Israel. I can name a few companies a lot of companies from America, Europe, and also from Asia. Car manufacturers. Also, Israel doesn't manufacture cars, but we create the technologies that empower the next generation of cars. For example, like now our latest big mobility unicorn is Mobileye, which empowers autonomous driving. And Intel acquired Mobileye for $15 billion last year. And they're moving all of their autonomous driving operation to Israel.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, there's a lot of talk about India and China, and here you're talking about what's happening in Israel. That's incredible.
Actually, India and China are also very, very connected to us. We have a lot of Chinese companies also here having their research and development centers. And also several Indian companies have big partnerships with Israeli companies for development of new technology to bring to India.
So this actually brings up, because I've been talking a lot about education and so they're coming to you for a reason, right? So what is it about the way that the next generation is being educated? Because obviously you've got the talent. That's why they're coming to you as opposed to you going to them.
Basically, the founding fathers of the country made sure that we had first a secure national home. And then 10 years after the country was founded, Golda Meir, who was the third woman in history to become a prime minister of a country, she decided that Israel had learned enough, and that we had to share this knowledge with other countries. So she figured out, she traveled around the world, and she saw that the largest group that didn't have the same opportunity was women. So she opened an organization which today is called Mashav, which is the Israeli Agency for International Cooperation, where we started training people from developing countries to help them with what we learned. And the beauty about what I found here in Israel is that Israelis are really open. They tell you what they did, what didn't work out, and what worked out. And then they're open to see, how can we help? How can we help you get to your goals? So there's a spirit of collaboration, a very strong spirit of collaboration among the Israelis, and from the Israelis to the rest of the world. We have this concept in Judaism called tikkun olam, which is the tikkun, it's like correcting, like the correction of the world, making the world a better place. This is a concept that it's in the DNA of every Jewish person. So in every way that they can, they will help with a small impact that they can do in their sphere of influence.
That's amazing. So let's talk about HOLALAND. Where does that fit into all of this? What are you doing with that? Because I know you've got a lot of different channels that you are responsible for.
When I came here to Israel, I realized that people were asking me all the time, how can you live in a war zone? Like the first thought, if I ask anybody that's hearing us right now in the audience, like the first thing that you think when you hear the name Israel, maybe I'm almost certain that they'll say religion and conflict.
Right.
So I wanted to bring another conversation, change the conversation about Israel, and to show people the Israel I was meeting every day. So I started just telling about my encounters with the creators of the technologies, not only the technology and how amazing it was, or how we went out for dinner, and then a friend of Mir said, what are you into? And he said, well, we're just developing a phone for people who have issues with movement, and they're paralyzed, or they have ALS, so that they can open the phone with just the movement of their eyes, for example, which gives them access to everything. And we have you can see amazing stories, or hear amazing stories of people who were veterans. They were paralyzed, and now they can do shopping for their home, surprise their wives and buy them flowers, just become part of the connected world today. And this is just one friend. And every weekend that we were going out, I was meeting people like this. So I said, this is the Israel I know. This is the Israel I should be sharing with everyone else, because I think it's fair that you show the good thing about people, because I think that there's partial stories that we hear from every country. Only what I think bad news sells, sadly. So
I think it's changing, though. I think more and more people want to hear the good news. Yeah.
And I think also good news inspires you. Inspires, to gives an example, gives if he or she could do it, well, I can. You can relate to people who want to do good. So this is how HOLALAND started, and I started to tell these stories, and then I started getting approached by big companies like television networks in the U.S. and Mexico to tell stories for them about innovation, about culture, about lifestyle in Israel, because I was here, and my background was engineering and also television. So I just carried on with what I knew best how to do, storytelling.
Yeah, that's great. Now, you also get into consulting now and it's other things. So where has that led you? So you started telling these stories, and then now you've created some relationships and partnerships and so forth. So talk a little bit about, because I know it's more than just telling the story now.
Yeah.
where you're at today?
Yeah, actually, like we said, there's a lot of people coming to Israel, investing and making partnerships. But
Yeah.
now I saw that there are some parts of the world that they just don't have access. So I wanted to bring this access to some areas of the world, and naturally it comes for me. Latin America comes naturally to me.
Yeah.
So I found with all my interviews that I did with founders and with venture capital firms, I figured out that innovation is everywhere. Basically, you have smart people everywhere, prepared people. Almost every country has great universities, but then people are not connecting the dots the way that maybe the Israelis or Silicon Valley has. So, and when you ask entrepreneurs or innovators, what's the biggest thing that is a challenge for you, they will tell you to raise capital and network. Both things, because they get they need to do their job, but also they need capital to start doing it, and then you also need to scale. So how do you go through that turning point? So I started a venture capital fund with partners from Mexico. So we're Mexico based and Israeli based. And we're cross-fertilizing both ecosystems, the ecosystem of Latin America and the ecosystem of Israel, because Israel is a very small country. We're 8.5 million people. So our market is small. We don't have a lot of regional commerce or exchange for conflict reasons. And so we have to think global from day one. So we go to Africa, we go to Europe, we go to the US, that's Asia also. Those are our natural markets, but Latin America is really far away, and culturally we're also like very far away. So I wanted to bridge to Latin America on both things, to bring the Israeli companies, to bring the technology that can really impact life, the quality of life of Latin Americans, and also support the innovation in Latin America with the Israeli model. So this is how we're cross-fertilizing both ecosystems.
Got it. So you're actually growing both markets and supporting the growth of both markets at the same time. So, that's extraordinary. And then you mentioned about women and the lack of opportunity for women, and how there's a lot of that going on. Can you talk just briefly, because I know that's a subject that is a hot topic, right? This gender equality.
It's a hot topic, and I think it's
specifically women in technology. I mean, there's not a lot of women in technology at leadership roles.
Yeah, even when I studied industrial engineering, it was some of my friends, and I'm sure they didn't mean it. They didn't think they were doing it in a mean way, but just the fact that they were willing to tell me, just stay studying industrial engineering, don't go to physics engineering or mechanical engineering because that's really for boys. Just by saying that, why? Yeah. Why? So, and today also you can ask some venture capitalists, maybe bring a partner, or why don't you have more women? And they're like, oh, sure, we have women. And when you say which way, I don't see any, partner. They never thought of it. They're like, sure, we have women, the receptionist or the assistant, right? So you're thinking, well, no, actually, I'm thinking a sit at the table that we can actually make decisions, on who are we going to invest and where is, how are we going to navigate the companies? So I think it's something that it's natural for patriarchal cultures to think that men should guide businesses, but I think also research has shown that men and women-led companies work better. When we work together, when we collaborate. Yes. And I think that we have to just contribute to that by being in the table, that taking a seat in the table wherever we are, basically.
Yeah. I was just talking to somebody recently about this, and she said statistically they know, they have done the studies, they know that companies that are co-led and or led by women in this particular study are actually more successful. They're more profitable. They're all these things, and yet it's still there's still this gap, and certainly technology sees that a lot. So, but here you are. You're actually a great example, and through you, I know that I met you through Jenny Lopez, who came to visit, and she has a company called Women Add Value.
Yeah.
And she told me about you, also Hedva Kleinhander, who's also in technology, a woman that is dynamic and powerful.
Amazing.
Yes, and and there's so many. And I was like, what is it about these women that are coming from Israel that are just these extraordinary leaders in the world of technology? It was just really interesting. And then recently met another one, Daphne Horowitz, who's a leadership consultant, and she just recently moved to Israel. And so I was kind of like, what's up with that? But it's yeah.
First of all, Israelis, we are like a big family. It's like a very small, crowded apartment. So yeah, both for men and women. It's like you come to Israel and everyone will have an opinion about what you do, why you do it. They'll give you advice that you didn't ask for, like a big family. Like seriously, this is a culture here. But also we support each other and we motivate each other. Like if someone's doing something that they think they believe and it's great, they will support you and they'll help you succeed, which is something that I love about the ecosystem here. Whether it's in regular business, whether it's in tech, it's like also you could think that in as much as, I don't know, like Brazil, the national sport is soccer, then here in Israel, the national sport is to be a tech entrepreneur. We call them startupist.
That's fantastic. Well, in collaboration, like you mentioned about collaboration, right, which the rest of the world, or at least in the Western world, it's becoming a lot. It's a hot topic, right? It's this idea of how can we collaborate, and that's where we resonated. Even we were talking about, turning it from a me conversation, competitive market to a collaborative where we can actually do so much more. You're living that. You're doing that right now. Now, let's talk about with that. Where do you see this going? What does the future hold in terms of technology? Certainly, I've read a lot about the pace is picking up. It's really moving fast, but you're at the hub right there and seeing some of these.
I'm looking at the technology that is coming, for the next 20 years, that we'll be seeing for the next 20 years. And I think that many people around the world just fear technology because it's something new, like anything new.
Fear of change.
People are afraid of robots that are going to take our jobs. But for example, on this topic of machine learning and artificial intelligence, I think there is so much more to life than work. And people, so many people we're seeing also, like people coming into their 40s or 50s and saying, I don't want to be, in a job that is only, a routine and that I don't feel, fulfilled and satisfied at that making an impact on the world. And with robots, then, they can do those jobs that are routinary, that don't require the abilities of a human being, that are creative and, creativity, compassion, empathy. All these things are something that maybe very developed artificial intelligence can emulate, but it'll take time. And the human connection is also like something that comes with soul to soul relationship. Yes. And these meaningful relationships come when we can have our financial situation just taken care of, that you can actually relax and find the time to connect to people you love, and also to people who are away from you, and think of creative ways to collaborate and make the world a better place. So I think that technology can actually help improve people's lives from the bottom of the pyramid to our highest needs, which are self-realization and making our legacy and our impact in the world.
Now, of course, with that, one of the things that I think, you talk about the displacement, right? So
Yeah.
if people are being displaced, what are they going to do? Assuming that they have actually the financial wherewithal to be able to do what they want to do. So we've got to solve that issue of how do they create income, or I've heard many different theories on how we can have like a flat income where, we've got enough to be able for people to be at a sustainable perspective,
I think there are a
level,
lot of,
and then move
yeah,
forward. Yeah.
I think there are a lot of challenges that people that our generation and the next generations are going to have to solve. But one of the things that I believe I think that the thinkers around the world really need to get together and just stop and think through, because it's not that technology is going to stop. It will just grow. And
Yes.
we have to really deal with it, what we have developed so far, and the kind of world that we really want to build. What are the things that we want to preserve? What are the the values of humanity, of our species, and really figure out what are the next steps for education, for how we educate our kids, because I'll give you an example. Like, still education for the most part, it's more like the industrial revolution, but the industrial revolution created the classroom for a
Yep.
purpose, so that everybody could produce the same thing, be like a factory.
Yep.
So, and this is not what we want today.
Right.
We want every single person to be able to express themselves and reach their full potential. So
Yep.
our school system, our education system is not really doing that. So
Oh my
we
gosh.
have to,
Yeah. That
you know,
that's a whole conversation just
and that's a
there.
whole new
Like just
conversation. Exactly. So this is why I'm saying technology will just sweep. We'll start sweeping, but the thinkers all around the world really need to be getting together to say, okay, how do we deal with this? How do we actually make a change that will help us get prepared for what's coming? For
yes.
really having societies that are not only well fed, well being, or also people are living longer. Okay.
Yes.
So, for example, people now between 70 and 90 years old, that, for example, here the average age is like 82 or 83. So you see a lot of companies now working for the aging properly, aging well, because in the end, you worked all your life. You want to enjoy,
Yes.
what you've worked for. And this concept of, all the marketing of just stay young, be young. And no, I love this. There's this amazing woman that she's a PhD in the Adasa Hospital, and she has developed amazing neurological breakthroughs. And she said, no, I don't want to be 20 again. I don't want to make the hard decisions. I don't want to be, working hard. I'm happy where I'm at, and I want to keep enjoying life. Don't sell me that lie of I want to stay, in my 20s, because I already worked. I had my kids. I helped them, become great men and women. Now I want to enjoy my grandchildren and my great grandchildren. This is and this is where science has brought the world to, a few years ago, people were dying at 40, 50, 60. Now
Yep.
people are living, 80 years old. So this longer lives that we live. So how do we live it better and happier and more satisfied?
Yeah.
So all this is I think just that we really need to be connected to each other. Not saying, the technology is not connected to anthropology or sociology. It's totally connected, because we are here in the same place and trying to
Yes.
solve the problems of the world, basically.
Yes. And even actually, I've been having this conversation a lot, talking about education and about what does it look like, and we have to ask ourselves questions that, because the leaders of transformation is all about people that want to create that transformation in the world, that want to work together, go from the me to the we conversation, and to really look at it and saying, what is the world that we would like to, like you said, what would you like to preserve? What would we like to enhance? What would we like to create? And what are those conversations that we need to have around that? And I think about, like, oftentimes we're asking the question from where we see today or the past, but we actually need to look at it and saying, what would it look like? So we're doing it based on the assumptions that certain things are going to stay the same, and they're not. Like, even when you look at what would happen, so how do we support all these people, or what are they going to do? But if we actually took care of that, what could they create? What would be all that creativity, that innovation? And I agree with you. I don't want to be 20. I mean, I love the youthfulness, and that's great and so forth. But, I learned a lot. I don't want to go through all that again.
Yeah.
I've been there once through.
Me
Once
too.
was enough. And I remember telling my dad in particular, as he was getting older, and I said, you have so much, because a lot of times with older people, they kind of get discarded, as
Absolutely.
they don't know, what they're talking about, or you're not in touch or whatever.
They have so much to give.
There's so much to give. They have all this life experience.
Yeah.
I think about,
All this wisdom.
I had one client that I worked with who was 73 at the time, and he packed so much. Actually, I had a few of them around the same time that were all around 72, 73, and they had packed so much life into those years, multiple careers, doing extraordinary things. And it was just so fascinating to listen to them. And if we could learn from that and then build upon that, rather than having to repeat. And the Jewish community is actually really good with that. Like, that's what it's inherent. And like you were talking about in their DNA, it's inherent also to pass on wisdom to the next generation.
Actually, I was going to tell you, I was going to tell you two things. There's an amazing, it came out as an experiment, I guess, because of location issues, but there was a kindergarten and a home for elderly people. They were together. Mm-hmm. So, kids 5 years old with 80-year-olds, and you see that they have so much in common, and the biggest thing they have in common is the present.
Yes.
So it's amazing how, like, you see this project, and the kids see that life has a long way, and that they can learn from elderly people, and elderly people go back to enjoying life as a child, which is we don't need to be apart from each other. People, I think also people learn way better when you have a lot of age groups, a lot of people from different ages in the same group, because you're so diverse and you have so much collective wisdom and different types of energies. I think it's that was a great project, and it's been successful in Seattle, and I think they're trying to just replicate it in other areas, which is very innovative, education wise. And another thing that I've seen here in Israel is that Israel is a country where we have a great collective memory. We just remember. We have days that are specifically to remember. We remember the Holocaust. Children are taught so that it won't happen again. And we have conferences about genocides all around the world, Armenia, Yazidis in Iraq. We actually want to learn from history so that all these dark periods of humanity won't happen again, because there's a lot of loss. So if I don't think that a people that doesn't know their history can actually look forward to a bright future, because you need to really learn those hard lessons, and also the good things that you accomplished. You need to look back to see. I don't think when you see the future from trying to reach far away, it's going to be so like, such a long way to go. But when you go back and you see where you came from, then you can really get motivated. Oh, sure, we'll get there. Look how far we've come.
Yes.
So I do believe that that there's you have to see the past, live in the present, but also be looking with hope to the future. And this is also I'll give you a small example of something that is amazing to me that I didn't see in other places in the world. For example, here we have a lot of, archaeology. And one of our biggest archaeological sites is in Caesarea. Caesarea was the capital of the Byzantine Empire for a time, and they were trying to make it. It was, a dream of one of the governors here in Israel, and they wanted to be the greatest port. And in Caesarea, there's a huge amphitheater that hosted around 15,000 people in old times. And you can see the structure, and it's a very, imponent place that you can see you can hear the acoustics and the building. It's just a great work of engineering and, ancient architecture. But then you see that, then you have a virtual reality tour. You see how life was there. You have, the technology showing you the past. And then at night, you can have a concert of one of our leading singers. So imagine, having, 10,000 people or just thousands of people singing together modern songs in a, 2,000-year-old place.
That's amazing.
It's just, yeah. So it really shows you how the history is so important, because in the end, it's what we build on and the legacy that we live to the next generation.
Yes.
And here we have it like very, very clear and in our everyday life, basically.
Yeah. With history, if I had a mentor once who said everything repeats. Well, it repeats when you don't learn the lesson. You keep repeating the same thing over and over again. And that's a great word of wisdom there, is that we do need to look at our history and see and say, how do we prevent that from happening again? Because if we don't know, oh, don't do that. It's like, don't touch the stove. You'll burn your hand. If we don't have that association, then we're going to do it again, and we're going to do it again, and we're going to do it again. And I just had this picture of that Colosseum in Caesarea. I'd love to see that one day and see the contrast. That would be very cool. So how do people connect with you? What new projects are you working on? Where do you need support in what you're doing?
They can connect with me on my email. They can, first of all the Spanish speakers, if anyone's a Spanish speaker hearing the podcast, you can access www.holaland.com, like Holy Land, just with A, hola, like in Spanish, holaland.com. And my email is ale, @holaland.com. And if you're interested on, you have a startup or you have an idea, a great idea, technology-wise, that you want to solve a big problem of the world in the sectors of agriculture, health, or education, then you can contact us at cantera.co. That's Cantera Capital website, and we'll be happy to. Or if you're an investor, also you want to invest in start companies, also that would be great. And I'm really open to listen to anyone out there who really wants to get a real understanding of what's going on here in the Middle East, because there's a lot going on in the news and there's a lot going on about conflict, but you can also see other sides that are much more inspiring, empowering, and relevant to the needs of the world, that you can connect in a different way to Israel. And I'm here to connect.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And is that just strictly for Spanish business startups, or is that just for anybody?
No.
Anybody?
No,
okay.
the Cantera
you don't have a
criteria for
criteria.
anybody.
Okay.
No. Also, we started HOLALAND also started as a Spanish-speaking, focused to the Spanish-speaking market, but now we're also, doing in English and doing English productions from Israel. Now we're having I love this project because it involves kids. So we're having Israeli kids telling about their country in 1-minute videos.
Oh man, that's awesome.
In several, one of the things about Israel is that there's a lot of immigrants, of people who came, from all around the world where the Jewish people were scattered. They came back and you have kids whose mom speaks to them in Russian, or the father speaks Polish, or, from India, from Ethiopia. So you have kids who have, two mother tongues. Yeah, they have Hebrew, they go to school in Hebrew, and at home they speak Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese. So we're
Amazing.
having them tell about their country in very, small bites. And I think it's great to see their own perspective about the people who founded this country, about what we do with technology, about what we do, the way we live, how we eat, that they can share in another language, which is also their mother tongue, and people who are their extended family about who we are.
That's amazing. Oh, I love that. I have to check that out. And I definitely know some people that I'll want to connect you with. So Ale, thank you so very much for coming on and sharing a little bit about your heart and your passion and what's going on there. I think it is certainly eye-opening to me, and it's certainly going to be eye-opening to our listeners for them to get a sense of what is actually happening. So you're making a huge impact in the world, and we appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. I think there's a lot of people out there making a lot of impact, and I'm really thankful to you, Nicole, that you invited me to the Leaders of Transformation podcast. And thank you for listening and spending time with us today.
Yeah. Well, you know what you say, that there's so many people doing amazing things, and this is where we were talking about, like, how do we bring them together? That's what the Leaders of Transformation is all about. How do we bring them together so we can have a greater impact together? I was actually talking to several people the last week or two, and it occurred to me that there's so many amazing people in pockets around the world that are doing things that if we were actually to bring them together, and that's what the Leaders of Transformation community is all about.
Come to Israel. Let's make a conference here of Leaders
of
Transformation. There you go. Come to the Holy Land.
I would love to do
we'll
that.
Organize it here.
We'll do that. That would be great. And because you know what, it's like this tipping. You get to this tipping point, and you change the conversation. And I think that we're a lot closer to that tipping point than we realize, because all of these people are these pockets all over the place. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, we'll be talking about that. So I've always wanted to go to see Israel. My mom and I have always wanted to go, and then we can do both of those things at once. So that sounds like fun.
Sure.
So, yeah.
That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So for our listeners, go to holaland.com. You can learn more about what Ale is doing, and we'll also have that link on if you're driving and you can't write it down or whatever, just or don't remember it, go to leadersoftransformation.com. We got the show notes there. Everything's there for you, so you can get connected to Ale. We'll also have her email available if you want to connect with her directly, social media handles and all that. So we thank you for listening, and we're just, you know what, this is start of something big. Like it is, we hear these stories of what people are doing. Just imagine all these people doing some, extraordinary things. We start connecting the dots. That's what the Leaders of Transformation is all about. We're going to start connecting those dots, and it's happening faster and faster. And we are going to change the conversation out there. We are going to shift it to collaboration and connection and really solving those world issues. So
absolutely. We only live once. We should do it right and collaborating with as many people as we can.
Exactly. So with that, get connected, go on Facebook. You can follow us. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, but you can follow us on Facebook. We also, if you are a leader of transformation, you're actively out there making an impact and you want to connect, we have a Facebook group that is designed for the people that are on the playing field, really out there making an impact. And so you can connect with us there. And we look forward to hearing your story and what you're up to. So we can, again, make those connections. So with that, have a great day, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Leaders of Transformation real soon.